Chris McCoskey of Emerging Civil War for the American Battlefield Trust as we continue to explore the Shiloh battlefield. Gary Edelman behind the camera at the moment with the big thumbs up. We hope you've been having a great time. Hope you share these videos, check things out, make sure your friends are in on the fun too. Now, earlier today, Parker Hills, our great guest star, who'll be coming in just a second, talked about the 5 mortuary monuments that are here on the battlefield. So we're going to take a second and stop and talk about another one of those stories here at Shiloh as we're continuing to follow the fighting on April 6th. Parker.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Right here on the map, what are the odds? Right here on the map is where we're located on the Eastern Corinth Road. Now, Adley Gladden's brigade has been attached, and their mission has been attached to the Hardee's line, and they're swinging around here on the Confederate right flank, and they're going to come up the Eastern Corinth Road here. And the battle has been occurring over here on the morning of Sunday morning, the 6th of April, and you can just imagine the smoke from the black powder now is wafting its way through the trees and the woods here. It's around 8 o'clock in the morning on the Sunday morning of the 6th of April, and this road it looks foggy. And Gladden is riding to the front of his troops as they come up the Eastern Corinth Road, heading north, and little does he know that just north of him, just to the left of the road, I'll draw it, right here, is Emil Munch's 1st Minnesota Battery. He can't see them. And as he rides in front of his troops, the battery opens fire, and a shell will literally take his left shoulder off and mortally wound him. He will not die until the 12th of April, 6 days later in Corinth, Mississippi, at the Fish Pond House, but he will die there. So this is a mortuary monument for him. Benjamin Mayberry Prentice's headquarters is not far away as the troops are swinging up the Eastern Corinth Road. Little do they know that over here, in this part of the field, on the Hamburg Road is a lone federal brigade by Colonel David Stuart, commanded by Colonel David Stuart, sent way out here by General Sherman to make sure that the federal left flank doesn't get surprised. Well, down here at Lick Creek is Bedford Forrest, was his cavalry, and he's been ordered to guard this creek. Now, David Stuart, when he hears all of the firing going over here, he decides, maybe I should disobey my orders and go to the sound of the guns. Well, he starts marching that away. Then he has second thoughts. Wait a minute, my mission is to guard this road. And he marches back. And then he thinks, well, maybe I should go to the sound of the guns. And he starts marching that away. And then he says, my mission is to guard this road. And he marches back. Well, the Confederates see these bayonets going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and they mistake this for an entire federal division, roughly 3 brigades instead of 1 brigade. And so they would detach two Confederate brigades to go down the road and cross this area here, Chalmers and Jackson's brigades, to go out on the far Confederate right flank to attack this supposed division. So what in fact was confusion on the Colonel David Stuart, on the part of David Stuart will turn out to be a marvelous deception that he has no idea what he's doing, and it would take 2 complete brigades way over here. Now here's where the terrain is going to start getting into it, because wherever you've got a creek, you've got a watershed, you got low ground, and this Spain branch down through here is extreme low swampy ground. You go up to the top here at Lark and Bell's Field, and then you drop into another deep ravine. You can see what's going to happen as the Confederates start trying to push the Federals away. They end up getting mired down and pushing the Federals towards Pittsburgh Landing, as Gary's already said. But this will be the beginning of the real terrain difficulties way over here. So this will be the second of the mortuary monuments we've seen, Brigadier General Adley Gladden here.
Good. And one thing I want to say is that you said that the battery that killed Gladden is actually visible from right over here. Is that right?
There we go. You can see her right up to the left of the road. That's Emil Munch's 1st Minnesota Battery. Off to the right of him, over here at the north of Spain Field, is Andrew Hickenlooper's battery. Hickenlooper will know from the Vicksburg campaign, who's instrumental in digging the mine at Vicksburg in front of the 3rd Louisiana Redan, and Hickenlooper's battery there. But he'll be an artillery officer. At Vicksburg, he will be an engineer officer doing these things. Hickenlooper will be at the north of Spainfield. He will lose a couple of guns here, not necessarily from being captured, but he will break an axle on one of them and have one of them get stuck between two trees as he's trying to withdraw here. Hickenlooper has kind of interesting story. His horse will be shot here, and he will think he's seen the end of his horse, and that horse will show up walking, a bloody horse walking up to see him at the hornet's nest. Also, something he really didn't want to see was his elderly father decided to come visit him, and right in the middle of combat, here comes the old man saying, "Hey son, how you doing?" So now he's got his wounded horse and his daddy to take care of, as well as his guns of his battery. He's got 4 of his 6 guns left.
I think I'd rather lose my horse than have my dad show up during a battle. You're with the American Battlefield Trust. I'm out in front of the camera now. I'm Gary Adelman, and you might not have noticed we switched camera because that transition between Chris Bukowski and I was so smooth.
We're almost interchangeable.
Indeed. People mistake us for one another all the time, as a matter of fact. So here we are. We're moving over here, and we wanted to just walk a little bit further because, you know, there are things in parks called inholdings, you know, things that are within an authorized boundary of the park but still privately owned, and this is where the trust has made a whole lot of progress. We've been able to secure the acreage where Nathan Bedford Forest was coming up, some of the land where Chalmers was coming up and whatnot, and, you know, really starting to fill in the south and eastern ends of this battlefield. And here's one of the more recent things we've been doing here, and thanks to everybody who donated toward it, and you can start to see how we are filling in more and more gaps over here. Sorry about the leaves, there's nothing we can do about that, but let's just pan in here a little bit, and maybe I can ask Parker, you know, you see, Chris, that this doesn't look like the land directly to the left of it. Look to the left there. Now, once this gets incorporated into the park's maintenance, it could be that they might have more of a similar look, if indeed that's how it looked during the battle. But Parker, let me bring you back out here. You know, what can you do with more land? You know, why is it that it's important to get this acreage to add to the story of what happened over here?
Well, if you don't do this, then you're basically beaming an army into the battlefield. Beaming up, Scotty. You've got to see how they got here. You've got to see the terrain as they marched in here and understand how it dispersed them, or it concentrated them, or channelized them into a narrow group. And so this helps us to do this by having more of this road, instead of having, here's a sign right there where the battlefield entrance is, right there. Well, pretty soon that sign will be a few hundred yards further down the road. And the more of this road we control, the more that we will be able to interpret this. When I'm training soldiers, I want them to see this, to understand how an army can be channelized on a road, or they can be dispersed by the terrain. It's very important to understand the effects of terrain.
Good.
It's Okoka. Okay?
Yes, yeah, Cocoa. Yeah, yeah. There was that Lee Iacocca, as a matter of fact. Sometimes I mess those things up, but I couldn't agree more. You know, unless you have the authenticity of the real thing, you not only lose out on the important lessons that soldiers need, but even for regular old visitors to be able to imagine, oh, was there a woods behind me? Is there a knoll on this property? And what about the rest of Gladden's brigade? And what way are they moving? And what terrain are they moving over? And then you also lose a few other key things. The what I sometimes call time travel, that, oh wow, experience people have on battlefields all the time, because they get it, because something happens and now I understand, which is, by the way, our job, all 3 of us, is to try to drag the past forward so maybe you can understand it a little bit better. And one of our best friends for that is the land itself. And it also, you know, allows us to interpret, you know, more of y'all's ancestors, okay? Who fought here? And you want to walk in the footsteps of your ancestors? We need to preserve the land where that was, north or south. So just a few mentions on that. Anything else to add, gentlemen?
We mentioned Okoka. We should explain that. That's an acronym, and that stands for Observation in Fields of Fire, Key Terrain, Cover, and Concealment. The difference between cover is it protects you from fire, like a big boulder, and concealment will hide you from fire like a bush. Okay, so you have cover and concealment. You have avenues of approach, which are very, very important. And again, I've already mentioned and then you have obstacles. Okay, so you've got that acronym of Okoka there.
Cool. I want to offer one little bit of context, and I'm going to hop over here for a second, because I think what's so dramatic about this piece of property, like, we're literally on the edge of the battlefield right here. I mean, you can see the maintenance mark on the road where the park starts on the right and public road here is on the left. And so this piece of property that the trust is in the process of preserving, it's literally on the edge of the battlefield. Imagine if this was a housing development, what that would do to the feel and the ambiance and our ability to understand this battlefield. So that's why picking up these pieces is
And
so
the
important.
avenue of approach.
Yes, the exact avenue. So this is what we're doing together, and the reason we make these videos is the more people will get interested in American history, maybe creating some better citizens in the meantime, so we know who and where we came from and why we are the way we are. But at the same time, we're completing a puzzle. Half an acre, 1 acre, 10 or 100 acres at a time, we are completing battlefields. The work the National Park Service and the federal government largely stopped, more than 50 years ago. So we really appreciate you sticking along as we got these messages to you for these videos, sharing these videos, going to battlefields.org. Check out Emerging Civil War and Battle Focus while you're at it. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Parker. We'll see you at another place soon.